In a world filled with sharks, bears, and killer bees, one man is brave enough to stay indoors to bring you the latest in gaming, movie, and pop culture news. That man is Tom Awesome, and this is the Outside is Overrated podcast.
Hello and welcome to Outside is Overrated Game Club. Today we're discussing the first half of Hollow Knight Silksong by Team Cherry. This action platformer boasts the same cutesy art style and tight controls of its revered predecessor, but can Silksong spin the same enchanting web? We'll find out. I'm your host, Tom Sidlogic, and we're going to break it down for you. Joining me for the discussion tonight are Munch Time, John Munch.
Howdy, howdy.
The Professor, Mike Mathwig.
Gentlemen.
And Patreon supporter and my man, Jimothy the Witch.
What's up, everyone?
Jim, welcome back. It's been a minute since you've been on microphone.
Outside is
Overrated is presented by Premier Health. Check out their website at premierhealthmn.com. That's premierhealthmn as in Minnesota.com. In this monthly standalone segment, we play a game with our community and invite all of our Patreon supporters to join the discussion. If you want to join in, support Outside is Overrated on Patreon at patreon.com/OiO. You can help for as little as $2 a month. We'll start by setting expectations. Hollow Knight Silksong is a shiny, new action platformer. Here's what we're going to cover. We'll talk about the exploration, we'll talk about the combat, and we'll talk in a very general sense about why people that aren't me like this style of game. Hollow Knight Silksong released in September 2025 and has a Metacritic score rating of 91. In Hollow Knight Silksong, you get dumped down a ravine, you get up and start swinging your spike like a sword, and you start leaping from platform to platform. You find a town, go on a pilgrimage, die a lot, and wonder if you'll ever find a double jump. The end. Hollow Knight Silksong. John, you put this game up for our Game Club discussion. What had you excited to play Hollow Knight Silksong?
So I loved the original Hollow Knight. I thought it was one of the best Metroidvanias I've ever played, right? I mean, and I played it on the Switch. It was like one of those I could pick it up, play around, run around, get lost. You know, the atmosphere, everything about it was fantastic. And this game had such a huge hype and was obviously lauded across by everyone. It crashed Steam, right? It crashed all these markets when people downloaded it and bought it all at once. So it's like, we got to try this out. And, I also just love the fact that it's a 3-person team, right? It's like 3 guys are like, we like games. Let's make this game that we like, right? And I just wanted to see what they were going to follow up Hollow Knight with this, what came next.
Well, it is remarkable that it's a 3-man team. Mike, if I can put words in your mouth, you told me that you weren't much of a fan of the original game and that you weren't going to play this game with us and talk about it on Mike, but here you are. So what's going on, my friend?
Well, I decided it would be interesting to see what this was. I mean, this game had a very long development cycle. It was over 7 years, to the point where people were talking about it like maybe it would never happen. So I'm curious just to see what they came up with and maybe to find out if this can hook me in a way that the original game did not when I tried it.
Well, I can't wait to dive in and learn if it did or not. For me, Metroidvanias are not my jam, so I'm going to cast a lot of shade in this game, and let me be clear, most of my issue with this game relates to my own skill. I think it is a beautiful game, but platformers and Metroidvanias are not my thing, so that's the lens that I'm coming from. Jim, you told me about something interesting with this game earlier this afternoon before we came on the air. I had no idea what silk posting was. Can you explain what this concept is to me?
Of course. So silk posting obviously is a play on the term S-posting. I
never got that. I didn't understand. I'm like,
okay. And it ties into what John and Mike were saying. 3-man development team in 2019, Team Cherry, December 2019, Team Cherry did a post, an announcement. We're still working on Silksong, blah, blah, blah. We'll provide you updates. And then went radio silent. They just stopped providing updates because it's 3 people. They want to develop a game, not do comms, right? And so everybody's wondering, is this game going to come out? It's highly anticipated. Hollow Knight was so great. And to fill the void the frustration, is this game going to come out? They started coming up with these troll posts, now called silk posting. So it ranged from people like, posting on Reddit, oh yeah, the game's out, I'm playing it right now, can you give me help on this boss? And then somebody else on Reddit is like, wait, it came out, and it has to go check Steam, and no, it's not there. They do things like making posts where right before a boss fight, and I've got a pop-up saying from a mobile game saying, click here to remove ads, $2.99, right? Just absolutely troll posts, and obviously everybody starts to realize that they're troll posts, so they just kind of build off one another, and they're just incredibly funny. I don't want to go too deep into them, which I already did. There's a guy, Dan Olson, did a PAX speech on silk posting. The whole thing is an hour long. The first 20 minutes, it covers like the top tier silk posts. I recommend you check it out. And now that the game is out, just search YouTube for like silk posting, and it's the number one PAX speech you'll see.
That's
and now that
awesome.
the game's out, they've evolved into like making up new areas, patching together 2 areas of the game, one background, one foreground, and being like, oh, I found this new area, isn't this super cool, like you should come check it out. It doesn't exist. Everything's made up. It's just fantastic. They did a lot of silly stuff in that Reddit. It's great.
That is a brazen approach to troll your own fan base, and like they backed it up with a game that is clearly revered with a 91 on Metacritic, so good for them. But like as a marketing person, that's not an approach that I would take very lightly. But let's talk about the gameplay. We're going to start with exploration. It is a major element of Silksong. Each screen is essentially an environmental puzzle. Screens are interconnected within areas, usually with a boss gating off the next area. By exploring, you'll encounter basic mobs to fight, uncover secrets, and collect 2 different currencies. In the early parts of the game, you're exploring a dense jungle and a magma-infused ruins. You buy maps from an NPC hiding in the dungeon, and you can use a precious inventory slot to equip a compass so you can actually see your location on that map. So, Jim, I want to start with you on this one. What stood out about the exploration in Hollow Knight Silksong? Was it more the map layout, the secrets, or just getting lost in these environments?
I think it's the getting lost, and it's the very Souls-like experience when the first time you play a Souls game. You are exploring an area, you've made it so far, and you're just desperate for the next checkpoint. Where's the next bonfire? Where's the next bench? And you just have to kind of keep going, praying it's there. Once you know it's there, then the second exploration, it's less exhilarating, right? I missed something. Go ahead.
That's all good. It's interesting that you brought up Souls. Very similarly to my Souls experience, I like finding small areas where I could efficiently grind rosaries, and that's a very Souls-like thing for me. Like finding a bonfire, finding an optimal route where I can blow through some enemies, get the currency, and build myself up. Like I also made a Souls-like comparison. John, how do you think this improved the formula from the original game?
So to me, it's way better in Silksong. I felt like I was always getting lost in Hollow Knight, never able to find my way, and the things didn't loop together in the best way. And I played a good 20 hours, 25 hours of Hollow Knight before I came back into this, like just before I started, just to kind of, it hooked me back in. It's like, I got to stop to get back into Silksong. So it's still great, but like still when I switched over to Silksong, everything flowed. Right. So the one thing I feel like it does so much better with exploration is you do have that Souls like, where's the next bench? Where's this? But if you're poking at corners, if you're hitting walls, if you're trying to like find all the secrets, they do a great job of looping everything all back together. They've improved the fast travel system with like your cute little bell monster guy that you get to ride on, who's awesome. And I felt like they did a great job with like all the different like biomes you run through, right? I find Hollow Knight, there's definitely some distinctions, but like, kind of like everything just kept getting darker and darker. And like you kind of said, Dom, like you're going to lava. You're going to like, now you're in like a crazy swamp area. Now you're in like a citadel. There's robot stuff. There's everything under the sun that you could imagine in this world of different types of enemies and mobs, this, that. So it was always fun to like be going one way, and then they would subvert your expectation by like, oops, all of a sudden, you're at the slab, right? And like now you're in a prison, right? Like stuff like that was just really cool. Like that was like when that happened, I was like, oh, that's my favorite. Like that was such a cool point of like the slab was like awesome. Loved it.
Or you suck at this game and you spend 90% of your time in the lava area. Also fun. Also fun. Exploration generally high, but there were times when there were hidden benches to find and there were secrets. Like, Jim, was it all highlights on the exploration for you? Did you find any of those hidden elements to be frustrating?
Yes. Oh gosh, hidden benches are the worst. There was a bench I encountered. It's later in Act 1, but it's technically in Act 1. Um, you platform, you go, and you finally see the sign saying bench ahead, and you follow the sign. You go in, and there's a bench, or there's a machine to insert your rosaries to access a bench. And you throw your rosaries in, and this bell starts to come out of the ground, same as every other station like that. It gets halfway and it gets stuck, and it just goes up and down, up and down. I know now that that is a usable bench, but at
Yep.
the time I didn't. I thought it was a troll fake dead end, and it. I was angry at the game for a minute there. There were others later in the game, which maybe we'll cover next month, but there were some troll benches or just hidden bench. Why does it need to be hidden? Those should be accessible.
I think they do like that same moment hit me too. And then I was like, because you're at a point where like to that bench, like you have to like jump across like a really nasty area to get to it. The stuff before it was really hard, and then and they did totally troll everybody with that. It's pretty funny. Like I also think like sometimes the obtuse like this is where I need to go. Sometimes there is like this is the only way to go, right? And like at like one point, like I'm near the end of Act 2, and I was like, oh, there's a bench door right here. Great, I figured it out, and I'm trying to get to the top of this area, and I can't figure out how to jump up there. I'm like, well, the map should take me right here, this and that, and I'm like, oh, I literally just didn't go like to the other side of another area where like I just didn't hop up 3 more jumps to find the door that took me where I needed to go. So it's just one of these things where it's just like I knew it was there. I knew I was in the right area, but because I didn't fully finish the jump exercise they wanted me to go through, right? I didn't quite get to that area so that I couldn't get to the door that I needed to move forward, right? The other thing that I like it's always makes me paranoid that I realize is like if I reach a point where like okay, I finished that jump and now I have a branch, you usually have like this 50-50 shot of like I'm either going to go the way to continue the story or if I go the other way, it's going to give me like some way to like unlock a door or this or that so I can easily get back here. And if you pick wrong, right? You're like, "Oh no, I am now way too far and I didn't unlock the thing that they wanted me to unlock to like make the easy run, the easy path." So like I figured that kind of out like a quarter of the way through and I'm like, "Okay, if I started going down one way and like it was taking too long before I clicked something, I would stop and I would go back the other way and it's like, "Oh yeah, you go right here and you hit this switch and now this door opens and now I can get through the door that was locked before or whatever it might be."
All right, John, there is a bench in Act 2. I want you to let me know when you get to it, and you will know exactly what bench I'm talking about. But I look forward to hearing you tell me you found the bench.
I found the bench. I know what you're talking
Oh, that bench.
Yeah, I know it's what you're talking about. Yeah.
On the subject of benches, I also want to give them kudos for the trapped bench. That made me laugh. That was the biggest laugh this game has given me. Was the bench I found, and I sat down with relief, and there was a click. I go, "Oh no!" And then a axe swipes me on the side of the head, and knocks me off the bench. Well played, well played.
They just love abusing their fan base. That's doesn't sound great. So that was exploration in Hollow Knight Silksong. So people and intelligent computers say that a huge part of these games is simply how good they feel to move around in. Between wall jumps, grapples, and traversal tools, did Silksong feel satisfying to control?
Absolutely. I think it takes a minute to get used to the controls. Once you get them, you are just schmoovin'. It feels so good to run around. Once you get dash, you're sprinting. You can air dash. All of that feels great. The other night I did a quest. I'm going to jump into Act 2 for a minute, but it's one where you are on a time limit. You have to run across like 3 different sections of the map. So you're on a time limit. Anytime you get hit, it reduces the time limit. And you just move. Once you have all the movement abilities, it just feels so good to run between those areas. You can't fast travel. And once you get the hang of it, it just feels great.
You know, I love it, but let's talk about diagonal down pogo and how much I actually really love diagonal down pogo. We had a lot of discussions in the Discord about it, right? I love how they start you with it, and it's super, super challenging, right? And I love the fact that they're like, if you hate it, you can get rid of it later on, right? And I don't use it now, but like, I think that, Tom, you had talked about going into like the hunter's area where there's all the ants and stuff, and like that is like your first, I think the first moment where you really have like a point where you're like, oh, I need to like use my down pogo to like jump on enemies or on like sometimes it'll be like little flowers or this or that. And like I was like, oh, this is pretty early. And if the whole game is like this, boy, I sure do hope I can get the hang of it. But once it clicked, I was like, oh, okay. And like as soon as it clicked and like I was making a run back to the top of that because the boss thing up there was killing me, I was like, boom, 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 boom. And you're like, you jump off those 3 flowers, then you hit the little bug guy that flies at you and you zoom up over him and you run away. It just felt so good once you get the hang of it. And like even like once you're using the down swipe, there's areas where it's like you do have to like get that just nailed. And I it's just I don't know. The other piece about it is they make you learn that before you get upgrades that bypass it, right? So, double jump, which is amazing once you get it, right? You have to like go through a horrendous challenge that is just beautifully designed, like and like when you finally get through it, like it is just like you're on the edge of your teeth. You might be like edge of your teeth. You might have like 1 health left. You're like jumping. You finally make it, but they put checkpoints along the way, so it may be super like frustrating and challenging. But I felt it almost like Super Meat Boy like, where like, oh, I died. Okay, start over. Oh, I died. Okay, start over. And I finally figured out my pattern, and had a sore thumb right from my D-pad, but I was like, I got it. I got the double jump, and like super satisfying.
Well, it's better than having a sore thumb from the way Casey gets it. I don't think that they explained that downward slash at all. So, like, I saw those red flowers walking around, and like, it wasn't until we had our Discord chat about it, I'm like, oh, I can like use that to travel. Like, super frustrating for me that I had no concept that those flowers were a traversal thing, and then trying to master the technique. I don't know if I'm going to make it through that gauntlet to the double jump.
I didn't have to master that one because I would quit the game if that was the only way to do traversal was that diagonal slash. I got as soon as I could
Thank
switched
God, I feel the
to straight
same.
down. And the straight down made everything so much better. It was night and day. It made the game 50% more enjoyable on its own just by being able to do that, because then I could actually get through areas like Hunter's, mark, whatever that was, and not be tearing my hair out in frustration. So yeah, as soon as you can, just switch your crest to the other one whenever you need to do, that balance maneuver, and life gets infinitely easier.
I'm looking forward to that. I haven't unlocked a lot of the traversal things. So far, I have sprint and like feather fall. So, I haven't progressed super far in this game.
I just want to say I stuck with the diagonal pogo the whole way through. I got other crests that unlocks like a regular straight down slash, and I had to use it for a boss fight because it was immediately after. But as soon as I could, I switched back to the main crest just because it felt more familiar. But by then, I'd gotten so used to the diagonal pogo that it didn't feel a detriment. It's still hard to aim, but I enjoyed the diagonal pogo and still use it.
So 2 things. One, Tom, I can't believe you didn't realize that those little like red things that are positioned like, like staggered and you can see the ledge up above it. Like, how did you not know that you could just jump on? Like that to me is like this is clearly something that looks unique and is different. And like you can see like, oh, they go in a pattern towards the next ledge.
Well, John, I die a lot in this game. I die a lot, and I'm not exactly looking to take a leap of faith on any potential platform, knowing that I could plummet 17 screens down and end up in the magma again. So, like, if I couldn't see the next platform, I very rarely flung myself toward it.
Well, just know you can bounce on anything that's like not like that stands out like that. Also, like spikes that are non organic, like metal spikes and this and that. That will come in very handy as you continue forward in your Silksong journey in the next month. The
And
other thing I
enemies.
do want to mention, and enemies, yes. The other thing I want to mention is like I would have stuck with the diagonal pogo, but the crests that you get, and I know we're going to maybe talk about this later, but the crests you get give you such different powers. Like I always use the crest that gives you the extra silk when you hit your enemies, right? So we could talk maybe about that when we get more into combat and this and that and how those tools work. But like it's so cool, I think, like how like you get a risk reward for I don't like the pogo, right? So I get this down slash, but then I get this other type of combat ability versus if I use the crest that gives me the down slash, you actually get another combat ability that like if you don't get hit a lot, right? Like the longer you hit other enemies, the more power you do. So you like become this like glass cannon type of hornet, which is awesome.
Yeah, sounds awesome. I hope that I feel awesome at this game at some point. Let's move on to combat. It starts off basic enough. You swing your spike like a sword with one button, you throw it like a spear with another, and you heal yourself by holding down a third button. Your spear, your healing, and other special moves consume silk, which you build up by whacking your enemies. Over time, you gain new movement options and other tools to help you bring the pain. So my first question about combat is, did the combat feel fair and readable, or did enemies ever feel cheap? And I want to start off with Scott's thought on this. Scott couldn't join us, but he specifically wanted us to talk about that some enemies seem to know how you want to attack. And just, I don't know if it was input reading or what specific enemies he took issue with, but did you guys feel like enemies knew how you wanted to attack?
I see
I
that.
think, yeah. I think it's the flying enemies, which we're probably about to talk about, but like enemies always seem to know to pull back and stay a little bit out of range because they get to be ranged. Well, you're not.
Yeah, or they have like these big long things, and like we have our tiny little spike. Yeah, super frustrating. Um, yeah,
I
so
also think a little bit. I want to go back to like Expedition 33 ish, right? Where like the timing of some of the enemies is a little bit off kilter, right? So they did a really good job of like in Expedition 33 you would be like watching, like you had to like listen to enemies to understand what they were going to do next, and like actually sound cues help in this game a lot, especially on boss fights as well, to kind of understand that. But there's all kinds of like weird timing cues I find that get me, where like I see an enemy move or do something that I think it's going to do something else, and it like does a different move instead, because every enemy has like two or three different moves it can do. So like I find like that was like one of the things where maybe that's where the input readings coming in, where like you do something and it's in response to what it's doing, but it has two options and it's going to say, oh, this is probably the option that's going to like mess him up more, so I'm going to do that one.
yeah, that big red bug springs to mind. The one that you had to help me lure him into the lower cavern so he couldn't do his secondary move. Um, well, Jimmer, what were your thoughts on like the basic mobs in the game? Did you feel like they were fun, frustrating, unfair?
I thought most of them were fair. I didn't find any of them to be unfair, and I found the variety to be really good. I did find the flying enemies to be the most annoying. Like I said, they tend to stay out of range, and just kind of moving back and luring you to an edge. And then they're finally close enough, but they're also right over a pit. So it's if you take the opportunity to hit them, you have to make sure you're able to reach back to the ledge. And just gets really frustrating and time consuming. Lure them back to a safe spot so that you can actually hit them.
Yeah, flying enemies can straight up get bent. I hate them so much. And I think one thing that makes this game way harder is you don't hit hard, right? I view like Hornet versus the Hollow Knight. It's kind of like, Hollow Knight is your sword board. He's more of like a warrior. He's got a heavier heft. Hornet is the thief, right? She's got this little tiny pinprick and she's just poking, and every enemy takes like 5, 6 hits, right? Out the gate. So like you don't have, and it's a long time before you get your first like weapon upgrade. And even then, it's not like, oh, okay, now I can kill all this stuff really easy. So like it's an interesting thing where like, yeah, those flying enemies, they'll hover over a pit. Like they want you to go and like do your down jump and do that and like press yourself, but you also don't have any of the extra, like I don't have a double jump. I don't have my ability to bounce off walls, right? So it is a very steep learning curve when you come into this game. Everything is way stronger than you, and you don't have any of the traversal tools you really need to like feel like you're like you can bounce all around them. So like as you get more of that, then combat takes a different shift where like now I'm like, oh, I'm gonna jump and I'm down stepping and I'm gonna bounce off you over here, and then I'm gonna dash over this way and then go down, and then I'm using a tool over here, and it's just because you have more tools in your toolbox. It's way more fun.
Yeah, my
Yeah.
toolbox sucks. One thing I want to call out here, like I played Hollow Knight for the first time about a month ago. I dabbled with it a little bit and played the opening areas. I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. And then I jump into Silksong and I'm like, this is freaking hard, man. Like it is noticeably more difficult in the early areas than the original Hollow Knight. And that really made it hard for me to get into this game at the start. I'm like, man, I'd really rather play the original Hollow Knight. I started playing Dark Souls instead to kill some time. And it's just like, yeah, I had a rough go trying to get into this game. Mike, what are your thoughts on the enemies?
Flying enemies blow. They're the worst, especially early. Like he was saying, until you start building up your arsenal of attacks and abilities and tools, they all move in such a herky-jerky way. You end up taking damage just from bumping into them, because if a pixel of Hornet impacts any portion of an enemy, you take damage, even if they're stunned, which is garbage. I will say that right now. I died multiple times from touching a stunned boss I was trying to attack, and that was. There was a challenge room in Greymore that we'll maybe touch on later, where I was ready to throw everything out the window because of the flying enemies in that room. So the ones on the ground generally I'm fine with. The ones in the air, not so much.
Yeah, that stupid dude with the bell on his head that chucks magma on you early in the game, like man, he ate my lunch. Like I died touching him, I died touching his magma, I died falling into the lava by trying to dodge him. Like we can sweep it on the flying enemies. They were definite down point of this game. I like that you can parry attacks. I thought that was interesting in combat. If a dude's swinging at you, if you time your swing right, like you can deflect it and you don't take any damage. I suck at that mechanic and I don't intend to rely on it, but I thought it was a neat thing. Thankfully, you guys are a lot better than me at this game, and we have some stuff to discuss that I just haven't experienced. You get tools. I have two. You get crests. I don't know what those are, and there are R1 abilities. I don't think I know what those are to overcome all of these obstacles. So, which of these systems wound up being the most beneficial? And let's start with Mike on this one, and then maybe John, you can jump in and Jim wrap it up.
Well, I've got a pretty good arsenal now, but I think just in basic utility, the triple knives that kind of spray out in front of you in a one kind of down, one kind of up, and one straight forward, they cover the most area. You can use them to ping flying guys who are staying out of range. Really, and it's a quick fire, and you get a reasonable number of them. I think it's 12 you can shoot. So it's made dealing with some of the more annoying flying enemies just that much easier, which helps a ton. But there's a lot of them.
Like
And most of them are a lot of fun to use.
those are tools specifically?
Yeah, I think they're all counted as tools.
Yeah, the tools are pretty varied. I think crests change your gameplay the most, at least for me, right? Because it changes your down jump, right? And again, I use the crest that like whenever you heal yourself, you were then like in this special state where like if you hit an enemy before getting hit again, a little like silk ball jumps out of the enemy. So that's super useful, right? Because okay, great, I've now been able to heal, right? And maybe my silk gauge isn't that full. I don't have their heal saved up, right? So it lets me stay alive longer on boss fights and this and that, because I'll usually get 2 or 3 hits in before I get hit again, collect those silk balls, and I'm able to like build my silk meter up, heal that much faster. So like that's the one like like I've gotten other ones as well, but that's the one crest that I kind of use all the time. The tools though, I think is where it gets super interesting. Like you guys don't have that, man. Like you get all kinds of different variations, and I would use different ones for different bosses, right? So like there's one really cool one that like it's like almost like a throwing star, and like as soon as someone hits it, the spikes shoot out in all sorts of directions. You'll get that one pretty early. That's really useful. The one I love are the thumbtacks. right? So like those you just throw on the ground, and if it's like a ground boss, you can just throw on like I will do thumbtacks, and eventually you get like an actual like little like flying bug that will zoom around and attack stuff. So I'll like throw the tacks down, launch all three of my bugs, and then just dodge stuff. It's super useful, especially on bosses that someone adds, so that you can like have your little guys take care of that, or like if you have to focus on like jumping around because of lava or this or that, you can have something attacking all the little things. That was super useful, so I use that all the time. But I switch between all the different things, and then also I'm always switching between. So you have blue and red like trinkets that you can use, right? And the blue ones are normally things that are going to be like more you specific, where it's like it lets you heal faster, or gives you a light, or gives you extra healing. So instead of 3, you get 5, right? So or like, oh, this gives me lava protection, which is really useful in the lava area where you're fighting lava monsters. But the ones that I like the best are like the red ones, where like it actually like can update your weapons, this and that. Like there's one where like it basically makes all your tools poison, right? So that one's really cool to get. So then I do that with the bugs and the spikes or the attacks, and I'm poisoning enemies. So like it really helps you continue to do damage without having to directly impact and hit bosses. So again, and the way you get these is not just like let me just follow the path. It's exploring. I'm poking at every nook and cranny, and you're just picking up. Oh, here's a tool. Oh, here's a tool. Oh, great. I'm finding them all the time, right? Because I am like exploring. Like I will open the map up and I'll look, where is there a dot that I haven't gone into? And like, oh, I can reach that. Let me go over there and explore that. So
John, is there a single mechanic in gaming that you prefer to chip damage?
I don't know. That's a good point. I never thought about it that way. But you
Yeah,
know,
like
I
from
do
Iceman in
love.
college up through now, like you live off the chips, man.
Yeah, I love it, man. Just like slowly whittle them down until you get to like one final blow, and then just come in and punch him once in the face. That's great,
Yeah,
right?
or
Just
like
dodge around and
poke
be
him with your
annoying like a
little.
fly. It's
Love it.
fantastic.
Jimmer?
Yeah, for me, for like I said, for the crest, I just stuck with the default crest with the down diagonal pogo. It just felt right to me, and it felt faster than the rest, so I just felt more in control. For the R1 abilities, Tom, you do have one. You had to do it to free the Bell Beast to get him to attack you,
Yeah,
but
the
it's a
traps, right?
not the traps.
Or
tools.
It was like a spear, a silk spear that she shoots
Yep.
out.
Forward, yeah.
She is Hornet a girl or a boy? I always assumed a girl.
I think
Pretty
she's
sure it's a
called
girl.
she in the game.
Is she okay? Um, but those are really powerful abilities, and you lock more, but they come at the cost of silk. So it's always, do you want to give up your ability to heal or delay your ability to heal for a very large damage attack? So I found them really interesting. And I like the fact that Crest let you change how you want to play the game. If you're comfortable with this or you're not comfortable with the default moveset, you're not stuck with it for the next 30 hours. You can change the moveset. And I think that's really nice for all players.
Yeah, I'm not stuck with it either. I can just change the game, Jim. I can just go play some more Dark Souls.
For me, for tools, I never really got much use out of them. They cost you something, so I wanted to save them, and I would just never use them. And then I got to the Hunter's March Gauntlet, which has way too long a run back, and I'm on 1 health, and I think I'm near the end, and there's an enemy far away, and I'm like, oh, I can throw this dagger at him, and bam, 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 throw 4 daggers, Ant dies, and I was done with it. Thank God for tools. I think they're great for gauntlets. That's all I got.
Yeah, gauntlets are great. But let's step it up. Let's talk about bosses. Every main area has main bosses and sub bosses who test your mastery of the combat skills and tools. So I want to know for each of you which boss fights stood out either mechanically or visually. And granted, I only fought 4 bosses, so nobody take mine. All right.
All right, I guess I'll start off. I found most of the bosses to be straightforward. I told myself when I entered a boss encounter, I'm not going to go full aggro. I'm going to take a second and try and learn their pattern first. And I feel like that really helped me out beating them. And I was really proud of myself that I actually followed through on that. The standout bosses to me, there was the one in the lava. that I don't know. It was a cool robot dropping lava. I
Fourth
think
chorus.
that was a
Yeah, I
really
think
cool fight.
so.
Is that
Yeah,
fourth
I
chorus?
told you not to talk
Yeah.
about mine, dude. Get out of
Oh,
here.
I'm sorry.
That's what
I
I
didn't
was
know
gonna
his
say.
name.
We all like fourth chorus.
Talk about something after the first eighth of the game, man.
Okay. Morwing. So there's a boss called Morwing, and it's a really open arena. Most of them are in these really tight closed arenas. Morwing is the one before I got to it, I got the regular down slash. Um, and it's a flying bug, and I ran up to it, and I kind of stood slightly to the side. I jumped up, and I did a down slash next to it. I wasn't above it, but the arc of the down slash was enough to hit the hitbox, which bounced me up, and I was able to just pogo on top of it. It still took me a few tries, but it was a lot of fun to just kind of sit on top of a boss and not let them actually do their abilities.
That sounds super satisfying.
So I think you, Jim, you were going to mention something about gauntlets, right? And how they were horrible, or at least a down point.
Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah,
No.
gauntlets, down point. Go ahead.
Yeah, and I also did not like the gauntlets. So like sometimes you'll come like, oh, there's gonna be a boss here, and then all of a sudden like it's not a boss, but it's like 3 normal enemies. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna have to fight like 4 rounds of normal enemies, and for whatever reason, they do a really good job of like making that tough. Those have been way harder than most boss fights for me. The boss fights that do stand out though, there is one early on that you get a crest from. You have to find it where you fight what's called like the Savage Beast Fly. All right, so there's these little beast fly guys that like will just like follow you around and like dash horizontally at you. You find them pretty early on. It's one of those, but it's bigger, and it is like I like banged my head against his boss for like 2 nights straight because it's one of these things where it will. I had to figure out that like, oh, you really need to like jump a lot so that you can like trick it into go flying above you, because otherwise it will like fly at just above where you think it can fly over you and hit you every darn time. So like that was a really hard boss. I think one of the cooler like visual bosses I fought. There's 2 really cool ones. One is like when you get to like this dance arena guy, and he's amazing. Like he's like throwing fireworks and like dancing, and he's awesome to look at. But like one that like, and he's maybe more optional, but one that's not that you get later on is like there's like a clockwork, 2 clockwork robots that are almost like they're dancing together, and like it's a very like simple boss to beat once you figure out how you do it, but like it's so cool just like the 2 of them go flying around, and you have to like once you beat one of them then they stop and like they start over again and you have to beat them, and they're zooming around, and like they would flash, and like you know which direction they're gonna go. Like I was like, I'm gonna go left and I'm gonna go diagonal. So you learn their pattern, and all of a sudden they stop, and like the whole screen fills with lasers, and you have to like jump and land like in between where you know the laser's gonna be. So it was just a really cool cool fight that actually like there's a whole character thing around it later on that like you find a guy and it connects to it, and it's actually like really sad. Like I'm like, oh, after I fought this, and then you learn more about it. So like that fight stands out to me. I remember that one really well.
That sounds miserable. Mike, what about you?
I think the bosses have been the highlight. I think most of them have been a lot of fun, although I've tried the Beast Fly and I gave up for a while, but not because the Beast Fly was so hard, although it's hard. The run back to the Beast Fly stinks and they can, bite me. But I really enjoyed the Morwing. It's a fun boss to fight, and it has a really neat mechanic where you can meet an NPC, an aged knight on his loyal bug steed, and he'll join you in the fight, and he'll come charging in with his lance and, basically tally ho and charge the beast and be swinging at it, and he gets knocked over and sits there twitching for a while, and he pops back up and rejoins the fight. It just adds a lot of charm and fun to that fight. It's been the highlight of boss fights just because of that guy, who I hope we meet again at some point.
I can't wait to meet a random NPC. I've basically fought 4 bosses, the Bell Beast, Lace, and the fourth chorus. I thought the fourth chorus was awesome. It's this big robot dude down in the magma. You just get a traversal tool, and like you're about to go back to like the other areas that you've been on the fringes of. It's like, all right, cool, I got this thing, I can shoot up over there. And like they place this boss in an area that you've already been, that you've already walked across. And so like I'm running across this platform, and all of a sudden the music changes, the screen locks. I'm like, oh, uh-oh. And it's this giant robot with 4 hands. He smashes the platforms that you're standing on. He drops magma rocks on you. He swipes across the bottom of the screen, and you have to jump and hover over those. And it was, for me, a really interesting use of all the different mechanics that I've unlocked so far. But man, it was so freaking hard for me. He killed me over and over again because I kept short arming. You could only hit him on the head. And so like you jump over his swiping arms, it's like, all right, great, I'm standing under him. I can jump up and hit him on the head, but I wouldn't like jump to my full height and swing. So I'd like do a half jump, swing, miss, and say, oh crap, well, dodge, avoid the magma, hit him in the head, heal, don't fall in the lava. It was a cool boss fight for me, but man, it really pushed me to the limit last night. Fourth course. These games are famous for tough boss fights and punishing platforming. So did Silksong hit the right difficulty balance, or did it ever feel frustrating? And Mike, let's start off with you on this one.
Yeah, this frustrating is the word. Where things fall apart for me is that because the benches are so widely spaced, you end up spending way too long trekking back to, a nasty platforming section or, a really tough challenge room. And it takes all the fun out when I'm spending all my time. It feels like doing the same screens again and again to get, from point A to point B to do what I'm trying to do. I see the same screen, the same enemy, the same jump, and I do it again and I do it again. It's too much time spent just going back and forth.
For me, I think the difficulty was really good. The frustrating part for me was when you'd be doing some sort of platforming and there'd be an enemy on the screen. You'd take a hit mid jump, take your invisibility frames, and you're falling. You can't reach another ledge, and you fall into spikes. Now you take a second hit of damage, and usually it's on a platforming section where there's not many enemies to recover your silk, which means you can't heal. So it just makes those platformings a little bit trickier than they need to be artificially. Uh, I reached some areas in Act 1, Sinner's Road and Biowater, and I ended up looking up information about them. I try not to, but those ones I looked up, maybe after I beat the game. But everyone's like, oh, there's such a huge difficulty spike. Those are Act 2 areas, and you need to have double jump, or you should have it at least. It was really frustrating that I found an area that I thought I had to go through that I really wasn't even supposed to be in yet. I wouldn't mind if they had gated it off with, requiring double jump before I get there. That would have been fine. I think we've already covered benches well enough, especially the hidden ones. And then I just wanted to talk a minute about Biowater. So, Tom, I don't think you haven't reached Biowater. Mike, have you reached Biowater?
No, I did. I poked my head there and I'm like, I could come back here. I got some other places I can explore.
All right. So throughout Hollow Knight, all the platforming, there's either a pit or lava or spikes underneath you. You miss a jump, you fall, you hit the spikes, you take your damage, you go back. Biowater doesn't have spikes, it has water that you can run through, which seems really nice, except for the water is filled with maggots, which take away your silk when you fall into it, at least like one level of silk. And 2, it infests you. So the only way to clear the infestation is to use your heal ability. So you're losing silk, you've got to recover your silk, you've got to use your heal ability to get them off, and then you already want to heal, but you don't have any silk because you just use it to clear the infestation. And it's so rough. It seems so easy that you're not taking damage, but it makes it so rough, so frustrating, and it's disgusting to be in there. Like, I felt uncomfortable being in there. Not that it made me want to quit the game or anything. It was well done how disgusting it was.
So I was reading something or watching a YouTube or something on it, and like they described it exactly how you did. I felt disgusting being in there. right? And that is like how I feel too. Like I've been here and like, oh, like that was one of those things. I did the exact same thing. Like I'm gonna explore everything. I'm still technically in Act 1. I don't have double jump. I don't have a lot of stuff, and I'm in this zone. And I'm like, I went way too far, and I like lost a lot of rosaries because I pushed way too far in it. Like, well, I got to keep going. I'm committed now, right? It's like I can't go back the other way I came. That place is horrible. Maybe I'll get to a bench and find a fast travel, right? I gotta go. But like what I've heard other people talk about is like how this area is supposed to make you feel that way so that you can feel so satisfied when you're done with it, right? It's one of those things where I'm gonna give you this nasty, difficult, bad thing, and now you have completed it. And like I don't know if that's what the developers have done, but like if you think about like games you love, sometimes you do have those junky parts where you're like grindy. Maybe it's grindy, maybe it's like, oh, I hate this part of this game. And like, but there's something to that too, where like I love everything in this game, but like, oh, it's that part. And like, oh yeah, biowater. And like, look, we're sitting here and we're talking about biowater for 15, 20 minutes. So it's a cool thing to me to talk about like how like a developer can put something into a game that they hope like causes discussion around how everybody hates it. And it almost brings like an endearing and like a positive thing to the game itself.
Or you can
I
just
just
not put
wanna
it in the
add-
crappy area. Also an option.
my first exit from Biowater, John, was getting kidnapped and sent to the slab. Which one? Okay, I'm out of Biowater now. Hooray!
Win.
No way am I going back in Biowater. I am done unless I find out I need to. And I still don't know where it is in Biowater that I got kidnapped. I can't find it.
Yeah, and like I wasn't gonna say anything about how you get to this lab. That was like a cool thing I found. Like I thought that was a neat thing that they took you up there. Um, yeah, I mean, going back to like the question of is the right balance there, and did it ever feel frustrating? I think if this game doesn't feel frustrating to you, then you're some sort of superhero platformer. I think the whole point is it's supposed to feel frustrating a little bit, just like Dark Souls, just like Elden Ring, just like any of these games. There's supposed to be frustrating moments in this because then when it clicks and you beat the boss, it like the victory is that much sweeter. Getting past it, like I was really mad at Savage Beastfly, and I'm like, I know I'm gonna beat this stupid thing, and like my wife is sitting next to me, she's like, what is going on? I'm like, I'm gonna beat this stupid fly, right? It's like, okay, right? And I finally was like, yes, ha! Like I was playing this on a plane when I was flying out for a work trip, and I'm sure the people sitting next to me thought I was like a crazy dude because I was like, and I was like, yeah, I'm like, oh yeah, right.
Here's my awkward plane experience. Flying back from a buddy's wedding last weekend, I was traveling with one friend. The person in the seat next to them wasn't a friend, was just a stranger. And like she listened to our conversation the whole way and would occasionally just like chime in and like, I was a little bit unhinged because I was just at a wedding for a whole weekend and like dehydrated and a little worn out coming back. So, but there's lots of interesting people on airplanes, John. But I don't particularly like your Souls comparison in that way because like I feel like the Souls games, I have evolved at them. I've gotten a lot better. I've learned how to move in them and how to position myself with enemies. And like, I feel like my skill has tremendously improved. And then you pair that with leveling up and getting more physically powerful, and it helps me overcome obstacles. In this game, like, I don't feel that sense of growing power. So I don't like the Souls comparison in that situation.
I don't know what you just said. Listen back to what you just said. Yeah, I've gotten better and my skills have improved. So now I understand the movement of the Souls games and how to roll and how to dodge and where to find all the little secrets, right? And you're leveling up so your attack is stronger. Maybe it's a little faster. Maybe you have a couple different spells. Or maybe I have, I leveled up my sword so it's stronger. Or I have a double jump that's adding another movement. It's just I think that the difference is a Souls game is a little bit more forgiving in the movement process, right? This is very much like, dude, if you miss this jump, you are dead, right? Like it is like jumpity 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 jump, and Souls is like, let me just roll around like an idiot for a while and dodge the boss, and like I can dodge his big sword by just rolling through it. So it's a little bit more forgiving in that regard. But I think that they're very, very, to me, comparable Especially like I actually think that the boss fights in Souls games are harder than the boss fights in Silksong and Hollow Knight, mainly because in like a Souls game, it's like 1-2 hits and you can just be dead, right? I at least get 3 or 4 hits, 5 hits, right? and I'm all nimble and can jump around and dodge stuff.
Mike, let me jump in with a quick one-liner and then you can follow up. I think that is a damning statement if you say that any game is less forgiving than a Souls game. If the Souls game is more forgiving in any regard, like I don't know if you have a smash hit on your hands.
I think the difference that we're not taking into account in that comparison, it's the 2D versus 3D. Souls games are 3D games. 3D games, by their very nature, are a little more forgiving and a little more flexible than 2D games are. 2D games are very exacting because you don't have a lot of options. You go up, you go left, you go right, maybe you go down, but only in some cases. A lot of times you don't even have that option. You really, in that scenario, have to be so precise all the time to succeed in a way you do not have to be in a 3D game. And I think that's why the comparison falls apart. Yeah, they're similar in a lot of ways, difficulty-wise, but they don't feel the same difficulty-wise because of that reason more than any other.
So I want to like be clear here. So what we're saying is because Silksong is 2D, it's harder than Dark Souls, and because I am better at Silksong than Tom, I am better at video games than Tom. Thank you. Podcast
I think
over.
That's fair. I think that's a fair statement.
Now, let me rebut that. I don't take a tremendous amount of pride in my video game skills. Like, I know that many people, including Jim for certain, have better twitch reflexes than me. Like, I think that my strength in games is my voracious appetite for consuming different things. So, like, I didn't think that I liked Metroidvanias going into this game. Now I could say it with 100% certainty. I don't like Metroidvanias. And, like, a lot of the things that I take issue with this game, it's because of my own skill level. So like, I really appreciate the art. I appreciate the level design. I like a lot of things about this. Just this game is very challenging for me. So like, buying a new tool doesn't necessarily tip the scales for me in the same way as like finding a new weapon in a Souls game that ties in with my attributes or like leveling up. So yeah, all right, you're better at games than me, John. Congratulations. That aligns you with about 95% of the general population. I'm proud of you. Yeah. Hollow Knight Silksong, not super for me. Is there anything else that we want to talk about about any of the boss fights or the difficulty balance before I jump on to the next thing?
I just want to chime in and double up on what Mike said earlier, where when you hit a boss enough, they get stunned and that offers you a moment of respite. But you absolutely can walk into them and take damage. And I think that is the silliest decision that they made. An enemy that's not attacking you should not be able to damage you. Very frustrating.
What if they're made out of magma, Jim?
Still can't hurt you.
What about a spike boss? Very pointy.
Still can't hurt you. Parrot.
So the exploration and the combat make up the core gameplay loop of Hollow Knight Silksong. How well do those systems come together and play off of each other? Like, is it fair to call this a masterpiece in the Metroidvania space?
Well, it's a different question than you originally prompted with. I think the systems came together well. I like the ability to heal, not just by killing a single enemy like a Metroid where you get an energy drop, but you have to hit enough to get enough silk to heal. But I definitely did take advantage of that. I'd run out of a screen, run back in, hit an enemy a few times, get a little bit back and forth to heal up between tough sections. I think the core gameplay loop that was missing for me, you do buy map markers, which you can place down, and it's like a silver one, a bronze one. So you reach an area and you're like, I can't reach that yet, but I will be able to later. And you're supposed to put a marker down. But it's really hard for me to remember what was there and why I put the marker down. I really wish I could put a marker down that says, come back here when you have double jump. Come back here when you've completed a quest. You know, it doesn't have to be tied to the specific quest, but this was a quest giver. This is a quest return spot. I just want to be able to remember those things. Or here requires a key instead of I've gone back to my markers and be like, what's there and why didn't I complete it before? Oh yeah, I still can't do it and I still don't know what I'm supposed to do.
The developers did some interesting things with this, right? So they improved it from Hollow Knight, where they actually gave you a couple, like at least one different one, and they tried to help you out with that same thing. Where like the guy that's telling you all the maps, like, oh, this is my boomerang disc thing. I think these would be really good to mark challenging fights. And that stuck with me when she told me that. I'm like, okay, that's a good idea. I'll use those if I have a boss I want to come back to. Great. But then the yellow beetle and the orange beetle or red, I'm like, just put it there. Maybe something's there. But one thing they do a good job of is actually making stuff on the map appear to be what it is. So there's points where like, you use your needle to play songs to open up certain gates, and you can see those gates look a certain way, right? So when I went through one at first, I was like, oh, and I looked across the map, I'm like, there's another one over there. Sweet. So I went over there, right? Or there's certain areas like where like they do name some things for you, which is nice, but there's certain areas where like, oh, this has a different building shape on the map. So they did a really cool job, I think, with drawing on the maps. But I do wholeheartedly agree. Like, just let me put in text, right? Let me type something in, or let me name my my markers or something.
Yeah, or you just don't mark anything and just don't ever go back. Always be pressing forward. Also an option. For me, due to my general lack of skill, this game was more frustrating than fun. So, like, as tight as the controls may be, as great as the exploration might be, as polished as the combat may be, like, I don't think there's anything that's going to super prop this experience up for me. So, through that lens, like, Mike, did you want to chime in before I move on?
Yeah, I'm really conflicted on how to describe this game and my experience because it's been so up and down. I've hit it pretty hard the last few days to get ready for this podcast, and it's been a wild variance. So I tried the Beast Fly boss, got really frustrated with the run back, and my frustration level was super high. So I gave up and I just did a bunch of exploration. Had a great time. I found a mask piece. I found the alchemist guy, did his quest and got a new tool. Had a wonderful time. It was the high point of the game for me. That sequence, that whole, couple hours of playing was great. Then I found the Sinner's Road, and that place is terrible, and my frustration level goes back through the roof. So it is so hard to, give a judgment on that because from session to session, it's just never the same.
Yeah, it's like the Souls games. They just took out all the enemies. It'd be great. You could just like wander around the world and like look at all the stuff. It'd be perfect for me. Just straight exploration, homie.
Yeah, Mike, you don't need to do Sinner's Road. Just skip it. Come back later.
Oh yeah, I eventually just left because I'm like, okay, these roaches are, driving me insane. So I'll come back. But yeah, I did give up on it eventually.
Just to let you know, if you do want the tax, you have to kill those guys for a quest.
Is that what tax. I did meet the two guys who gave me the quest, and I was,
yeah,
that's what you get from them. Okay, well, eventually I'll have to do it. But...
Yep. Yeah.
Sounds awesome. Can't wait. So, like, Metroidvanias have been hugely popular in the last decade. So, I know they're not for me, but what is it that keeps people coming back to this style of game?
Maybe someone else should go first, but for me, I'm just full disclosure. I've never been able to enjoy Metroidvanias the way most people do, and this goes back to the OG Metroid and the OG Castlevania way back in the day. I've dipped in and out of the genre periodically just to kind of see if, hey, maybe now, with the new generation, things will be better. And it just never clicked. And this game has finally allowed me to kind of understand and pinpoint my issue with it. I'm fine with difficulty in games, and I'm fine with dying a lot. I mean, I've played a lot of tough games, and I've died, many times. But as long as I can feel like I'm gaining something, I'm gaining experience or knowledge or items or lore, in that process, bring on the difficulty. I'm fine. But these games have just too much empty time where all I do is see the same screens, the same enemies, the same platforming, while I'm making run back to try to get to the same spot where I died, where I die again, and have to make the same long run back. Greymoor is a great area, except that basically there's a super hard challenge room at one end, and there's a tough boss at the other end, and the run back to either of those things is ridiculously long, and I got very sick of seeing those same screens, dodging the same enemies, and doing the same jumps to get back to doing what I wanted to be doing, which is, clearing the challenge room or clearing the boss. And that empty time, to me, sucks a lot of the life out of this genre, not just this game.
So I wholeheartedly agree, right? I am one of the people that I will preach respect my time, right? Respect my time. I hate when my time is wasted in the game. My time is precious. I don't like frustrating run backs and this and that, right? And there are some in Silksong. It's better than Hollow Knight. I will not ever say there's none. It's fine. I know I've been talking a lot of trash in the Discord about just find the right bench, Mike. Come on, it's not that bad. All you got to do is just fall down this hole and then bounce off this thing and then jump 3 times and you're there. Just don't get hit by the 18 guys that are chasing you. Come on. I do think though, I want to defend Metroidvanias, right? Because I think Silksong is unique, right? It's unique, and Hollow Knight is unique in that Dark Souls aspect that it's tying into this Metroid, into a Metroidvania. It's a little bit more of a mashup. It's a Souls Metroidvania, right? Where you do have these run backs. So don't disregard the genre. If you're out there and you're listening to this, right, and you're like, boy, I thought I would like Metroidvanias. They sound fun. You go and you run around and you shoot stuff and you platform and you get a weapon that lets you go back somewhere else and open something up and you explore more stuff. That is true Metroidvania. Silksong, Hollow Knight, right? It's gonna have more of the boss challenge and that in there. So I would, Tom, Mike, both of you, if you're Metroidvanias aren't for me, pick up. Go play Symphony of the Night. Give it a shot.
I have played Symphony of the Night.
OG. Oh, so that's fantastic. You it's awesome. That's the best, right? Or they have it you can do Bloodstained is the new one that came out. That's the successor of it. That one's fantastic as well. I really liked it. Or Axiom Verge is a really really good. And Axiom Verge 2, really good Metroidvanias. Give them another shot. Don't let Silksong be I'm not a Metroidvania person, because they're not all like this. That being said, I do love this one. I think that does a fantastic job of with the exploration, with the mapping. To me, it's a great evolution and a great challenge and a great addition to the genre. That takes something, and I feel it's not the same scenes, right? I feel the different biomes and the different areas are very unique, and you get some really cool different it's very very Mosswood versus Sinner's Road versus Bio versus once you get up to the Citadel, all extremely different and super unique and fun to explore. There's definitely lots of tons of hidden lore, and if you talk to the NPCs multiple times, you get lots of cool story beats. So but yes, there is going to be some run backs that I can see where they sour it.
Also, to defend roguelikes, Metroidvanias, I think the exploration is always a ton of fun. I think the unique thing to Metroidvanias is the way that the map always loops back. You're always going out further, getting new abilities, and suddenly you're back where you started. And it's okay, I got to get through this room, and that means I got to pogo off these red bushes. Wait, I've got float now, and I've got an air dash. I don't need to do that anymore. This room that used to be a pain, I now have the ability to just breeze through it. And it's just, yeah, you're going through an area that's easy now. I guess in Hollow Knight, you don't get any, or Silksong, you don't get any stronger. So the enemies aren't easier, but the area itself is easier. And it's that feeling that your character has improved without just saying, oh, my strength is +1. It's no, I just crush through this area really easily because I have cool new tools in my tool belt, and that feels really good.
That does sound satisfying. I hope that I get some new tools, because that would be great. This is a very random side note, but as much as I generally dislike Metroidvanias, I actually loved Salt and Sanctuary, which, Jim, I think you bounced off that pretty quickly, didn't you?
Buddy, I super beat Salt and Sanctuary a few times.
Oh, all right. Well, great. Now we're the same. I like that game a lot. Let's play that instead. I mean, Coming back to Metroidvanias in general, through the first half of this game, or for Jim through the whole experience, how does Silksong compare to other Metroidvanias? Like, does this set a new bar for the genre? Is this a good entry? Like, is this mid tier? Like, I don't have any frame of reference for where Silksong fits in the hierarchy of Metroidvanias.
So I think to the general population, Hollow Knight and Silksong are the Metroidvanias to play right now. Not just right now; they're the bar. To me personally, they're like 4 and 5, and I don't know which one I'd put where. I think they're really good, but I enjoyed other Metroidvanias more. I think Metroid Dread is the best Metroidvania I've played, which is probably a very not many people would agree with me there, but I think the way Dread is laid out would be more your style, Tom. It's very you'll see things that you can't reach yet and you want to go back to it, but the way the game will work is to block you off from that area. Don't try and go back, just keep moving forward. So it's considered a linear Metroidvania. I think Super Metroid is better than it, and I think Sultan Sanctuary is better than it. I think those are all great games, and if you're looking for a Souls-like Metroidvania, Sultan Sanctuary is the way to go. The sequel, Sultan Sacrifice? That one I bounced off of very quickly.
Oh, that's the one I played. Sorry, I played Sultan Sacrifice, not maybe I can't remember. It was Sultan something, and I remember you throwing shade in the Discord. I'm like, I like that game, and I just filed it away until I had you on the mic, and now I got you, Jimmer. I got you.
No, put Sultan Sanctuary on the docket, and I'll play it again.
Fire up my Steam Deck and find out what the heck I'm talking about. For me, I assume that all Metroidvanias hate me, and I'm just going to skip the entire genre for the rest of my life. Despite what John says about those other options, like, I have 15 Souls games that I want to play. I have about 800 hours of, like, Yakuza games that I want to play. So, like, I don't know. I don't see myself super coming back.
At least give Super Metroid a try. Like, I will say that. Like to me, that always ranks as like kind of number one up there. Like I would actually like I'd be spot on. Like I haven't played Sultan Sanctuary, but like, Jim, like I love Dread. I thought it was fantastic. Super Metroid to me is always the best. They're much more forgiving, right? Because you have energy tanks, you can get hit multiple times, right? So like it is much more of a. Although Dread does have a little bit of a oops insta death. There's a couple moments there where you do have to you're redoing those runs and finding the right pattern, but in a fun way. I do think that Silksong, Hollow Knight, they are in that top echelon. To me, it's like Super Metroid. It's Symphony of the Night is right up there, right? And then then I start to get into probably Hollow Knight Silksong just for the way they move, right? Because movement's a big thing with a Metroidvania. Things unlocking and me getting like different traversal things, and nothing does it better than Hollow Knight and Silksong.
Mike, you were shaking your head no at was it Dread or Super Metroid?
Metroid. At this point in time, I don't know that Tom should try to go back to Super Metroid. It might be a bit of a rough go when you consider the age of that game, but who can say? Maybe the Super Nintendo is his era.
I hate old games and I hate Metroidvania, so yeah, let's just like Super Slam me. That sounds like it'd be a great fit.
All right. So if or when I move back, right, I have my SNES and my copy of Super Metroid here. I think there's some sort of OiO live Super Metroid run we need to do with Tom just to see like how frustrated or how amazed he is by such an amazing game. And Tom, you can pick some horrible thing that you think I will hate, and I will play that.
Can we get a head-to-head Tom playing Super Metroid for the first time and John doing Super Metroid reverse boss order?
Yeah. Tom would win. I'm not that good at it.
I appreciate the sentiment. I don't know what Jim means, but it sounds like it'd be just miserable for both of us. So like as long as you're miserable too, that sounds great.
Awesome.
Well, let's wrap up our discussion this way. What do you hope for in the next month with Hollow Knight? Jim, let's start with you.
All right. So like you said, I finished with the bad ending. Hollow Knight and Silksong have bad ending. They have good ending, and the good ending. I never did the good ending in Hollow Knight. It's just too much. So I might play around and see if I can get it. But if it does something a little too much that I don't care to do, then I'll hop off of it. I'm excited that I've done enough that I'm lifting my own personal ban about looking things up in the game so I can see where things are. I'm looking forward to hearing you guys complain about some of the areas that I was tearing my hair out, but nobody was there yet, so I couldn't complain to. And I'm really hoping that there isn't a sequel to Hollow Knight had an area called the Path of Pain. It was a very difficult platforming area. I never tried it myself. I'm hoping there isn't one there in Silksong because I'll probably bounce out if there is. And then I'm looking forward to getting back to Hades too because you guys pulled me off of it.
I'm dabbling with that too. To be fair, John didn't, or no, I've been playing the original Hades. To be fair, John did want to play that in this time slot, but it wasn't on all consoles, just on PC,
That
right?
was
So
it was my first pick, right? But we went here instead because everyone could get Silksong for $20, right? Everywhere. So.
yeah. All right, so Jim's beat the game. He might dink around a little bit, but he's likely to bounce off. John, what about you?
I am almost through to like where Jim is at with the bad ending, although I think I'm pretty close to the good ending too. I'm not sure though. I feel like I might be just because like I'm 40 hours in and I've explored tons and tons of stuff. I'm sure I have 100 things that I've missed. But yeah, I hope to like at least get some sort of ending and then go from there and kind of see what I have left to get to the good ending. And then I'm sure I will still continue to play around. I want to, I like to platinum things. I will not platinum this. Like I will get to a point where I think like the difficulty is like, no, I'm not gonna like, bang my head against the wall too much more. I had, 40 hours is a lot of fun and I can move on to the next thing. But I am interested, Tom, to see what you do the next month. I think that is going to be the fun thing. And I would recommend for you, look some stuff up. Like go to YouTube and say, what should you go grab first? There's probably some things that you might be able to like get you some more traversal stuff or some tools that might help you out.
Yeah, I have a hard time looking things up, man. Mike, what about you? What are you hoping to accomplish in the next month?
I hope I can get to an ending. I hope I don't just hit the wall so hard that I just can't go any further because it's possible. I mean, this game has great art. It has great music. It has great bosses. It has maybe the best sound design of all time. And I'd hate to have to not get to an ending, but I just don't know if I can, get there depending on how things go because the frustration points are so frustrating. I just don't know if I'll be able to stick it out to the end, but I'm going to try. I've already made way further in this than I thought I would, so we'll see.
I'm glad you stuck with it. Like, usually, I'm stressing to beat these games that we talk about on the Game Pass segments, and like usually we're all in a pretty similar place. On this one, I let that go a long time ago, man. Like I could tell early on that this game wasn't necessarily for me. So my hope for the next month is to beat Act 1, which seems like a pretty attainable goal. Hopefully I get further than that. But like, this game is not going to break me. I feel like Dungeon Crawler Carl here. Like this game is not going to break me. Like I'm going to enjoy it for what I can enjoy. Sake of suffering in this game. There's a lot to like, and like there's a lot that I appreciate about it, and I think that I can see why this game is as revered as it is. But like for me, it just doesn't all work, and like that's okay. This isn't my style of game. Hopefully I get through Act 1 and see some more interesting bosses. Is there anything else you guys want to get off your chest about Hollow Knight Silksong? All right, well, here's hoping you guys see some credits by the time we talk next month. That wraps up the first part of our discussion on Hollow Knight Silksong by Team Cherry. Next month, we're going to wrap up this discussion on Silksong. On the main feed, we just dropped our book club discussion of Dungeon Crawler Carl. Then next month, we're going to focus on director Jon Favreau's feature films. We hope that you'll jump in and play Hollow Knight Silksong along with us. Please support Outside is Overrated at patreon.com/OiO. And until next month, stay inside, kids.